So what we're looking for here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel is nothing other than Yichud. Yichud means oneness. The power of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu is the power to unite. And unfortunately, we live in a world of separations. It can be very difficult to come together. And the most difficult one, that is black and white, is male and female. Putting the marriage in a peaceful place. How to make the marriage go forward with all the things that we have to do to make it sound and religious family. So here we go to we had been talking about criticism and why it's so important for a husband to honor his wife and not to criticize her in any way. And the more that he does that, the more he builds her up, and the more he finds the good things in her, the sweeter their life will be. Observe and understand. Since the wife is the husband's mirror, then that's what he's saying, is that actually she is your opposite, that it's a mirror image of what you're doing. He should know how to interpret what he sees in that mirror in order to reach the proper conclusion. We'll illustrate a few examples of how a wife serves as a mirror for her husband. Each husband should pray to Hashem for the wisdom to understand what he observes within his mirror. For example, here's number A. He's got 3. What's A, B, C, D, E? He has 5 different examples. Number 1, number A. Hashem governs the world according to what he calls atfat. What is that? Principle, a turn for a turn. It says atat is a turn for a turn. What does that mean? For example, if a wife fails to respect her husband, then the husband is not properly respecting Hashem. And this happens all the time, where your wife will come and tell you that you're doing, she just really doesn't like what you're doing. And that in your way, she's very strong criticism. He says that's because the husband is not properly respecting Hashem. You're disrespectful to the master of the universe. Your wife comes and lets you know about that. If the wife doesn't obey the husband, then the husband is most certainly disobeying Hashem, and so on and so forth. And you see how it is that your wife can really turn around on you and really start giving you a bad time. That's a time to start the pashbase b'maz. The person has to start examining himself. Hashem shows the husband what he must correct by displaying that particular flaw within the wife. A woman's anger is indicative of a husband's tendency to lose his temper. A woman's disdain of a certain mitzvah, the modesty, for example, indicates her husband's failure to observe that very same mitzvah. If he looks at other women, she'll most certainly try to attract the attention of other men. Wow. Number C. Hashem uses a breach in marital peace to stimulate a correction within the husband. Now this is all the same kind of thing because the husband and the wife are really one unit. For example, as soon as a husband acts arrogantly in the slightest way, and boy, that's happened to me before, his wife opposes him. I've had some of the most incredible, when I had some little success in business, sometimes I felt like, wow, everything's going good. Turn around, you see that your wife is not happy with you in a very deep, fundamental way. How to look at what you're doing, what your attitudes are. If a husband has lewd desires, his wife won't stand it. If he desires other women, pornography, and debauchery, then should be disgusted with him. It turns out that the status of their marital peace is an indication of what he needs to correct. Number D. He said, King Solomon said in Proverbs, as water reflects one's countenance, thus one's heart reflects another's heart. Her behavior toward him is a mere reflection of his behavior towards her. If he treats her like a queen, he'll be a king. But if he treats her like a floor mop, he'll be a wet rag. Number E. Our sages said that a person with a nasty wife is spared from purgatory. He won't go to hell if your wife is mean. What's the Gemara mean? The Gemara teaches that we must therefore accept the tribulation of a difficult wife with love. Because what she's actually doing is shaping you up. For a husband's suffering atones for his sins. My esteemed teacher, Rebbe Lev Yitzchak Binder, this man of blessed memory and saintly, told me that not only a wife that curses and hits is called a nasty wife, but any woman that causes sorrow and anguish to her husband is regarded likewise. If she's unkempt and disheveled, she also falls into this category. The Gemara says, for example, in this Gemara in Yevamos, that even if she prepares him a wonderful meal, but she does something to upset him, such as ignoring him or turning her back on him, then she's also regarded as a nasty wife. Now, this has happened to me. There are times when my wife also always makes beautiful meals, and she works on them, but there have been times when they've been served in coldness that's lasted. And I know that it requires correction on my part. A woman who is overly meticulous about cleanliness and other order is also a nasty wife, for it's difficult to live within the confines of a museum. So let's clarify. A wife doesn't become a, quote, nasty wife on her own accord. She's tied to him, and he's tying himself to her. If she torments her husband, then he deserves to be tormented, and it does happen. For there are no tribulations without prior transgression, so you're into a situation where maybe your ego got the best of you, or who knows what. Whatever Hashem gives a man, whenever, whatever, that he says a man, a woman that's clean, messy, angry, or patient is exactly what he deserves. So if she's what he deserves, why complain about it? Is it her fault that the heavenly court has sentenced him to suffer? The wife is only a stick in Hashem's hand. Instead of reprimanding her, let him open his heart and ears to Hashem's reprimand. Let him hear what's wrong with him. Take positive action and do tshuva. Now, this is a strong thing, and everybody doesn't like it. But I do. Because I understand what he's talking about. There are times when I'll come into the house and my wife is on me. You have to really think, and it hurts. And you have to really think, what preceded this? What is the situation that's going on? Try to find the core. Your personal mirror, he writes. The principle that a wife mirrors her husband enables a person to refrain from criticizing his wife. The flaws she exhibits are the flaws he needs to rectify. She is his exact reflection. If you see in a mirror that your hat's on crooked, don't try to straighten the mirror. It won't do any good. Likewise, comments and criticism do nothing to correct a wife. They only destroy her joy in life. One with no spiritual awareness is upset by the flaws he sees in his wife. He becomes embittered and regrets his misfortune in marrying such a woman. He also thinks that his solemn obligation is to criticize everything she does, to lecture, to reprimand, and sermonize her. He can't love her either because he only sees her faults. Such an attitude is the root cause of strife in a marriage. As long as a husband thinks that his wife must correct herself, especially when she eggs her on with comments and criticism, there can never be peace in the home. Their lives become a purgatory on earth. You didn't get married to correct your wife. Remember that. You got married to correct yourself by using your wife as a mirror of you. Magnifying glass. A wife isn't just a mirror that reflects life's images. She's much more than that. She's a high-powered electron microscope that reveals all of her husband's flaws. Oh my goodness. For example, if he has his slightest streak of anger, okay, that happens, right? Hashem will show him his flaw within his wife. She'll be angry when you come home. She is liable to exhibit disproportionate levels of anger just so that her husband will get the message. Just like an automatic thing. You come home full of anger, and then you see your wife, and it winds up that she turns it around on you. One might ask, is this fair? Why does Hashem make the wife overreact? The answer is simple. No man is capable of objectively seeing his own faults. Now, I'm always perfect. If Hashem would send subtle suggestions for character improvement, the husband would probably just brush them off. His wife's extreme magnifications of his behavior, when she goes into it and she remembers all the bad things he did, which I get this, try to avoid this, but this does in fact happen, of his behavior designed to elicit a responsive effort to improve. Our sages said that a hint is enough for a wise man, but a fool needs to be hit over the head. What a lie. Mirror or suffer. Understandably, a wife is a mirror only for a husband that respects her, who does his best to refrain from comments and criticism. But if he's forever tearing her down with his remarks and criticism, then her anger is a result of her own frustration and unhappiness. In such a case, the husband must make immediate tshuva for upsetting his wife. Now, isn't this an interesting idea? Especially, okay, let's go on, especially because this man is Sephardi. Sephardim has a different relationship between husbands and wives, but maybe it actually comes out to be the same, just opposite. In the face of their wife's expression of rage, some husbands, rather than understanding where she's coming from, react smugly and say, "Why can't you control yourself? Man, I think I just did this the other day. Why can't you control yourself like I do? Why can't you work on yourself and learn a little patience?" Such a husband is light years away from tshuva. His only hope is to learn this book and to pray to implement it. Now, just because it's caught in my throat, because some of these mistakes are mistakes that I made. But this book gives me the idea that the power to correct the situation and make my home a beautiful place is really within me. In most cases, a husband's calm in the face of his wife's anger is not an expression of commendable character. For at other times, when he should be calm and collected, he flies into a fury. When his wife is angry, he enjoys showing himself off as a Mr. Chill. It's not going to bother me. The epitome of serenity in an attempt to make her look like she's the wicked witch. This is nothing more than sinister and spiteful behavior on his part. Her sorrow should have touched his heart and aroused him from his smug apathy. He should understand that her angry reactions are a sign of distress. The husband, by correcting his own faults, rescues his wife from distress. Now, this is the concept, really, of yichud, of oneness. But the separation that's between them, which is the force of the other side, the force of separation instead of oneness, is constantly there. So the husband has to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, by correcting his own faults, rescuing his wife from distress. If a person is a model husband that never criticizes his wife, and yet she still exhibits outbursts of anger, that he should know that he still has inclinations of anger that he needs to uproot. That she'll as you walk by, she'll say something. Mirroring the inner self. A wife mirrors a husband's inner dimension more than she does his outer dimension. With serious soul searching, a person could evaluate himself if he truly wanted to, but human nature tends to whitewash one's flaws and character blemishes. Hitler didn't do anything wrong, he did the right thing. That's what he told himself. People like the comfort of feeling that everything is fine, but if a person believes that his wife is the mirror of his inner self, then he earns a rare opportunity to discover the truth, to see his own innermost flaws. This was reflected in his wife, as to work to correct them, and also what needs to be corrected. So he said, many husbands come to me with complaints about their wives. When I tell them that she is a mirror of her husband's shortcomings, they refuse to accept it, accept what I'm saying. This shows a denial of their faults and an unwillingness to correct them. When a husband has a genuine desire to improve, and this is what we all should be doing, tshuva, and your wife is the mirror that shows you what your character needs. and he does an hour of daily self-assessment in his bodhidus, trying his best to improve what he can, then Hashem shows him what he needs to correct via his bodhidus. So he's doing this is the concept of meditation, of speaking to Hashem, which is very popular. It actually is a basic principle teaching of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Such a person doesn't need the wake-up calls of an irate wife, and therefore enjoys a good measure of tranquility. Even if he doesn't succeed in discerning all of Hashem's hints during his bodhidus, because he's talking to Hashem, there should be some ideas coming back, then Hashem will augment his divine messages with gentle messages from the wife. So he's talking to Hashem and trying to figure out what to do to make his life better. Well, his wife will come along and help him. A husband that prefers burying his head in the sand like an ostrich and ignoring his faults requires a shock treatment, and you'll get it, which he receives from his wife. If this doesn't arouse him to work on himself, then it's a sign that he's far away from tshuva and self-correction. A mirror for the worthy. So he said the holy 16th century CE Kabbalist Rabbi Avraham Azulai, a blessed and saintly messengers, offer the classic Chesed LaAvraham and great-grandfather of the renowned Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai, who is the Kidah, writes about the principle of the wife as a mirror of her husband. He explains that Hashem runs the world by implementing a turn for a turn. What does that mean? That the way a person acts with Hashem is exactly the way his wife will act with him. For example, if a person revolts against Hashem, then his wife will revolt against him. It's common for a man to understand himself a good husband. He therefore fails to understand why his wife doesn't listen to him, why she doesn't like him. This is a result of the atfat, that principle. He's quite a turn. He calls it atfat. It's the first words, letters of the word a turn for a turn. She revolts against him in the same manner that he has revolted against Hashem. This is not a punishment, but on the contrary, it's a divine compassion designed to encourage him to mend his ways and come closer to Hashem. Therefore, writes Rabbi Avraham Azulai, every upright young man whose wife revolts against him shall know that he himself is the cause. What Rabbi Azulai means, what does he mean? If a person is not an upright young man, then his wife will act like a mirror. The answer is that he who fails to behave in the way of the Torah would obviously react brutally and violently if his wife would make a remark about him, much less that she'd dare yell at him and disparage him. A wife is deathly afraid of such a husband. She is subservient because she's emotionally vanquished and terrified about how he might act. She can't possibly be a mirror because he shattered her long ago. Only a person with the will to improve himself and with a delicate and forgiving manner is worthy of a wife that mirrors him. The kind, loving, and respectful husband can attribute his wife's irrational behavior to his own shortcomings. Remember this. Rather than being upset with her, he makes a greater effort to improve himself. That's the shir right now. That's the shir for today. This is Baruch Fleischman, and we're listening to the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.